Sherry Berry, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Sales at Arizona Science Center. Our mission here is to inspire, educate, and entertain people of all ages about science. The center sees about 500,000 visitors a year, 160,000 of which are school children. We pride ourselves on creating memorable educational experiences for all of our guests. When I got here in December of 2011, I had a really big goal, and it was to more than double the attendance at our center in the course of the next 3 to 4 years. So when I got here, my big question was, how do I accomplish this goal of dramatically increasing the attendance at the Science Center? And like any marketer, I knew that the answer to that question is pretty simple. You need to get to know your customers, you need to understand their interests, and then you need to communicate the things that we have to offer that match up with those interests. So I took a look at our current landscape and the systems we had to accomplish those goals. And the problem is our systems weren't able to do that. Our POS system wasn't able to collect customer data and match them up with transactions. A lot of our departments were even on manual systems, and so that little simple marketing formula wasn't going to work for us in our current world. The good news for me is that our senior management team had already made a decision to bring on the Tessitura software system, and it was a CRM system that was capable of accomplishing what I needed it to do. And as soon as I learned that we were going to bring on that system in July of 2012, I put together an action plan to make sure that we could really maximize that system to accomplish my goal. And it started me with this whole process that I call lassoing the anonymous guest. I knew our new Tessitura software was capable of collecting customer data, understanding our customer interests, and would allow me to be able to communicate the wonderful things we do at the Science Center to them. I also knew that a huge portion of the guests that were anonymous come through our admissions counter, and it was really simple to fix that, and it was just ask them for that information. And when I brought up that idea to our guest services team and some of our management, they said, "You can't do that." And I found out that it is not traditional in arts and cultural organizations to collect customer patron data. I knew it was essential to me meeting our goal, and I knew that customers would be willing to give us that data because they love the Science Center and they are interested in what we do. So the first day that we brought Tessitura online here at the Science Center, we simply just asked, and we were extremely successful with that. We've had an 80% capture rate since we started implementing the system, and it's resulted in about 80,000 people in the first year in an opt-in database for us. So we were getting people through the counter. What next? Well, we had all kinds of other guests that were taking part in all sorts of other wonderful programs we have here, lectures, educations, both in and outside our center, and we weren't collecting data on them either. So I went through a process that I called hide and seek, and I really wanted to seek out any engagement that we had with our guests and figure out how to collect that same data so we knew who those guests were in all of those programs. And we've been really successful at it. I'm still going through a few hide and seek adventures, but we're at a point now where we really are collecting data on almost every guest that we service. The last part of lassoing the anonymous guest that I decided to do is collect information from non-traditional sources where we were bringing in additional customers to the Science Center. And one example of that is through discount offers that we had, like Living Social and Groupon, where they're coming in and they're handing you a piece of paper and it just has their offer on it, and you really don't have any information on those guests at all. And we've also changed that up as we offer some of those discount offers at this particular time, and we package them so they're value added. We bring in guests who we know are going to be more loyal to the customer by the offer that we have, and we collect that information when they come into the Science Center as well. So what it's allowed us to do is broaden that funnel of anonymous guests that we're bringing into the Science Center. So now we have all of these guests in our system. They're not anonymous anymore. How do we move them from loyal? That's where the laddering begins. And laddering is moving those first-time visitors through the steps it takes to have them become loyal. So like most marketers who have a brand new database that's collecting information on all sorts of customers, your instinct is to segment them. And I found out very quickly that segmentation wasn't working to get at what people were truly interested in, so we could take the wonderful things that we do at the Science Center and target those interests and create more repeat customer business. And so it became very apparent that our data was allowing us to see behavior patterns, and those behavior patterns created interest clusters. An example of that would be foodies at the Science Center, people who came to every single food event that we had. And it's interesting because once you understand those clusters and those interests that are building up in your center, then you can go after passions, which is one more rung up the ladder. Foodies love beer, so hold a beer event. As soon as you understand those passions and those clusters, then what you can do is figure out who's the most influential in those particular clusters, and those influencers are the ones that you can really pay special attention to. Give them advanced announcements, really market those influencers because they're going to bring the rest of the people up the ladder with them. And then the last thing is really kind of take a look at some of the traditional things that you may do. One of the things that we very traditionally did in our center was offer year-long memberships. And we found that our family cluster really wanted to participate in our summer programs. Their kids were off school, and that's when they were visiting the most. So we decided to create a summer family membership, and that particular membership has been one of our most popular membership programs, and it's really allowed us to bring a lot more people into the organization and move them into memberships that are a year long. So we've moved people up the ladder. We decided that we wanted to continue to do that, so we developed what I call a loyalty tactic list. First thing on the list, content matters. If you understand your customers' passions and interests, you need to create programming that they're interested in. And this has actually been one of the funnest outcomes of learning about our customers and the data, is creating programs that they're really truly interested in. Next thing on the list, newbies are special. We want to make sure that from the first visit that they feel warm and welcome into our center, and we use our CRM system to do that by sending triggered emails and thank yous after the very first visit. Next thing on the list, don't wait, anticipate. If you understand what people are truly interested about, there's going to be milestones coming up on the calendar that they're going to be interested in. So anticipate what those things are and develop your programming and communicate those key things to them. Next thing on the list, develop relevant surprises. Really take those passions and surprise your guests. Send them emails that you wouldn't normally do. I mean, we typically sent out discount messages, but those don't really get after people's interest. So send out things that apply to what they care about. One other great tactic that we've had in the Science Center is to rethink our touch points. Traditionally, we were marketing and trying to bring more guests in based on touch points like their second visit or a renewal for a membership. And we've found that if you really get to know your customers and look at that behavior, that there's a lot more impactful touch points to go after. So for example, birthdays, if they bring their kids in for those particular events, it's much more personal. Another tactic list, invite them in. If you understand what your customers' interests are, create clubs and invite them to your particular center and have them come up with your programming. They're going to love it. So where did using our CRM system of moving anonymous guests up the ladder get us? Well, in the first year, we went from 9,500 to 18,000 members. We increased our admissions revenue by 26%. Our membership visits went up by 102%. And finally, we gained 80,000 new friends in our database. So what's next? We want to continue to use the data coming out of our CRM system to do more audience and influencer analysis. We want to make a wider and longer funnel, bring in more anonymous guests and ladder them up through that. And finally, we want to continue to make more and more friends. So my big goal was to increase attendance at the Science Center. I was able to use our brand new CRM system to move our anonymous guests to loyal customers and really understand what their interests are, and for us to be able to create dynamic programming that fills those interests. I hope this is of use to you and your arts and cultural organizations. Thank you very much.